We are now joined by Matt Moscona of the Locked On LSU podcast. After further review here in Baton Rouge, many other things. You got Morning Scone.
Yeah.
You have a lot of tonnage there, a lot of media coverage, but with LSU, it needs to be, because right now I think we're in an era with Lane Kiffin. You've covered the team for over 20 years. Have you seen anything like this with the scrutiny and just the outside noise focused on the Lane train?
The 3 months from Brian Kelly being fired to Lane being courted, hired, and then the portal, I can safely say I have never had a 3-month stretch in my career quite like that. That's a mouthful, because when you cover LSU, we're pretty good at muddying the waters around here. And when you just think of the last 20 years and everything, all that the Les Miles era was, Ed Ogeron, the greatest team ever, basketball, coaches hired, fired, Ben Simmons, Will Wade, baseball championships, it's never boring here ever. That 3-month stretch was unlike anything I've ever seen. And for the first time, LSU has a celebrity coach. Lane Kiffin transcends college football. People who are not football fans know who Lane Kiffin is. Maybe it's his background with his dad, having been an NFL coach. Maybe it's just being in Vanity Fair. He transcends the sport. And because of that, you have so much interest outside of people who just desperately care about X's and O's and wins on the field. So it's incredible.
And you've been to press conferences. I've been to press conferences with Lane. The Vanity Fair interview got a lot of publicity, but I feel like he's never caught off guard. He's direct, and then also in a press conference, you can ask him one question, and he'll turn into something else. It seems like everything has a purpose with his interviews.
I describe him as being thoughtful. And I don't mean thoughtful like considerate of the feelings of others. I mean, he thinks about everything he says, and he's usually 2 or 3 steps ahead. Your point about press conferences is a great one. I recently referenced a clip on Locked On LSU where he was asked about his tight ends, and the 60-second answer was about how he evaluates high school talent and builds his roster and where they invest their cap money. Oh, also about tight ends. But whatever message he wants to convey, he's going to get that out some way or another and use whatever you and I ask him to get that message. I've found that in press conference now, I need to be very specific and direct with a question if I want a very specific answer. If you ask him an open-ended question like, how's your team's injury situation, he might meander into whatever he wants to talk about. So sometimes that's good. Sometimes he'll lead you to really interesting conversations, but we're learning him. It's despite the fact that he has been in all of our awareness for so long. We are learning Lane Kiffin now on a one-to-one basis.
With Lane at Ole Miss, he did what he wanted. At LSU, there's no reining in Lane. He can do whatever he wants. He can post whatever he wants on social media. I feel like LSU is just hands off with Lane so far when he's got here, because I guess there's no wins and losses right now. He's 0-0. Is it kind of Lane? It's Lane's world and everybody else is kind of living in it.
You're right. Nobody's told him no yet. Look, let's start with the transfer portal class. Right. So Lane Kiffin shows up, and they had a number in mind, and I think they were probably going to fall somewhere around the $25 million range for that roster. That was the plan. Well, all of a sudden, now you have the opportunity to get Sam Levitt, and you have the opportunity to get Hussam Longstreet, and you have the opportunity to get Prince Williman Mielen and Jordan Seaton. All of a sudden, that number swelled beyond $40 million. And it was like, we'll figure out how to pay for this later, do it. And then you look at his staff. You go look at the LSU website, at all of the sports staff, on field, off field, all of it. You're over 80 men and women on the LSU football staff. It's almost a 1-to-1 for the roster. They late in spring added T. Martin just because Lane wanted to add T. Martin. You have the positional breakdown is stunning. How you have an inside receivers coach and Sawyer Jordan's handling that, and then you have your your defensive tackles coach and your edge rushers and your coaching the stars. It just, they're finding roles for all of these guys because nobody's telling Lane no. And they're going to give him every resource he needs to win at the highest level. The fascinating thing will be what happens if you have all of this buy-in, 91 million for Lane, 40 plus million for the roster, all of the support staff, and you go 8-4. Well, is there an appetite next year to repeat that process again, or do you start to see them scale back a little bit on the roster, the investment, the budget? Like, the LSU's got to win at football. Like, it is the non-negotiable, because football funds the whole thing. It's why they were willing to pay $54 million to buy out Brian Kelly. The question that I had a conversation with Gordon McKernan, who's one of LSU's biggest owners and supporters, and he said this on my show on the record. He said, as we're having the conversation, can you afford to pay the $54 million to buy out Kelly? He said, you look around the stadium and there's empty suites and empty seats. Can you afford not to fire Brian Kelly when you're LSU? And so LSU's got to be great in football. But the question is going to be, if you're making this massive investment, you're going to have great expectations. So can Lane live up to those expectations? If year one they don't, what is the appetite year 2 and 3 and 4 to continue repeating that process?
The $40 million number is out there. You've reported it. Other outlets have. Why are teams like LSU so secretive about the number? I asked them point blank in a press conference. I think you've talked to them about it. Why do they shy away from that number getting out there to the press?
It's like a game of poker. In any negotiation, you don't want anybody to know your cards, because every player has an agent representing them that are negotiating on behalf of their client. And so if an agent knows what you're spending for a certain player, they can use that as leverage maybe to negotiate with another school. They could use your number to have schools bid against you, whatever the case may be. So that's why also with the revenue share number, the state of Louisiana right now, there is a piece of legislation going through the legislature right now to protect those revenue share numbers from not becoming public. We'll know the total number, but not individually what each student athlete may make, because that can also be used against you in recruiting. What if LSU and Texas A&M are going after the same player, and A&M has budget X and LSU has budget Y? Well, now the agent can negotiate against if you put your card on the table. So they want that ambiguity. Everyone internally wants that ambiguity, unless you get to a point where there's a cap. If you get to a point like in professional ball where there's a salary cap, I think we're a long way away from that. But then everyone's playing under the same construct. But until that day happens, you don't want anybody to know what your deal is and how things are structured, at least not publicly.
$40 million this year, $40 million plus. It's just going to keep skyrocketing. Are we talking maybe next year LSU is going to be up to $50 million, $55 million? I guess that's if they're going double-digit wins. You talked about being 8-4 and maybe the money goes down. Where is it going to stop? It going to go 60, 70, $80 million rosters coming up?
I don't know. So I don't know how feasible that is, and we can go deep into the weeds here with the money, but unless and until private equity gets involved, I don't know how you keep escalating numbers. Let's just look at LSU specifically. The $40 million's been thrown out a good bit. I believe that number is actually closer to 50 this year. Okay, it's over 40. I believe it's closer to 50. But they went and added 40 guys in the transfer portal. In theory, you shouldn't have to do that again next year because of the way they built this roster. Not only did they go get some top-of-the-line portal guys, Levitt, Seaton, Uman Mielen, they also added 9 receivers and 4 running backs via the portal. Well, you went and added starters, but you also added depth at those positions. You signed 3 quarterbacks. So in theory, you shouldn't have to go in the portal next year and sign 40 guys out of the portal, because a lot of those guys from this portal class will return for 2027. So I think that number will come down. I don't think it escalates. But I do think you will see college rosters that do start to exceed 50, 60 million. The how you pay for it is interesting, because revenue share can't cover the whole nut. donor fatigue is a very real thing. And then how much can multimedia rights holders factor in with true NIL? I mean, look, we saw a report recently at Yahoo where the CSC, the Collegiate Sports Commission, that's Deloitte, that oversees all the true NIL deals, right? So every NIL deal has to be approved for fair market value. There's about $150 million of deals being held up right now. It's not fair market value. So if that money's not getting to the student athlete, well, you can tell a student athlete you think they're worth X. You can even maybe have a deal brokered, but if it's not approved, that money never changes hands. Well, what's your roster really worth? But I think the simplest way to say it is we're in an era where unless revenues dramatically increase, continuing to see roster budgets increase is probably going to slow.
With Lane coming to Baton Rouge and being in Louisiana, you would also hope maybe getting homegrown kids can kind of keep the number down. I think that's probably one of the main reasons that Lane is here is because the LSU power, you get kids from Ruston, you get kids from Edna Carr, from Catholic High, everywhere in between. I would feel that would maybe keep the number down, the NI number down, if you can just build kids from freshman to sophomore year and quit having to go in the portal.
If you have guys that will come to LSU for a lesser number and will stay. Okay, so if you let's use Richard Anderson for example, okay? So Richard Anderson, everybody knows, is a 5-star, the #1 defensive tackle in the country. You had to pay Richard Anderson to get him. But that's a guy you think is going to be a day one immediate impact player. What you can't do is pay a high school player, a highly regarded high school player, to come and sit. Because now, whatever cap you have invested in this roster, if you invest that in a freshman who comes and is in a log jam and then leaves after year one, well, now you've wasted that chunk of your cap for that season. I'll give you an example. Remember Lance Hurd? Mm-hmm. Lance Hurd was a 5-star offensive lineman from Neville. He comes to LSU for 1 year, sits behind Will Campbell, and transfers. Well, whatever LSU paid Lance Hurd that year was wasted. You got nothing out of it. So if you're going to invest in high school players, like big-time high school players, they have to be immediate impact guys. DJ Pickett, Harlem Berry, Richard Anderson, Lamar Brown. You look at, for example, recently, LSU was thought to be the front runner for a 5-star cornerback named Joshua Dobson out of North Carolina. He's the #1 cornerback in the country for 2027. He recently took LSU off his list. Well, look at the cornerback spot for LSU in 27, conceivably. Pickett's back for a junior year. Woodland could return for a senior year. Jakeem Jackson could be back for a senior year. And you just brought in Haven Finney for 26, who will be in his second year in 27. Dobson is going to command a giant number, but he may step on campus and be your 5th guy. So LSU may look at that and go, we're not going to pay you as a freshman. Come as a freshman, and when you're starting as a sophomore, junior, we'll catch up. But if there's another school like A&M who's willing to pay him as a freshman, well, he'll go there. So it's a balancing act. The state of Louisiana is a great benefit for Lane Kiffin because you have guys that will give their arm just to run through that tunnel and wear the purple and gold and will come and stay. And so that is a benefit. And if we ever, and I think Lane is banking on this too, Garland, if we get to a point where we do find a cap number eventually, where things do kind of revert to the way they were and the powers that be are able to build rosters off their brand because the numbers don't continue to get outsized and swell every year, then yeah, it goes back to the state of Louisiana, the advantage being in the dirt. That still is an advantage, no doubt. But I think you're going to see be mindful of what elite level players LSU signs in the high school ranks. I'm telling you, it's going to be people they're anticipating being immediate impact guys. Easton Royal, LSU will spend money to flip Easton Royal from Texas because they expect him to come in day one and be their best receiver, right? They will spend on him to flip him from Texas. They're not going to spend on the 5-star cornerback who they think will come in and be the 5th guy year one. So it's a strange balancing act with how rosters are being constructed now.
With Lane leaving Ole Miss in November to now, you can track your numbers on Locked On LSU AFR, all that. What has been the response from Ole Miss fans? Have your numbers, because you can track if people are Mississippi, Alabama, or all that. How are your numbers gone from? Because you know the LSU people are locked into your shows. Yeah. What is the Ole Miss numbers right now? Are fans? I'm sure a lot of them are hate listening to the show. But
brother.
Yeah. So how is the numbers been popping? Because I know you talked about this one time, but the actual concrete numbers of Ole Miss fans.
Locked On has been incredibly successful, and I'm thrilled for the success of the show. It's been awesome. I love to show people this. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
You see that?
You can hold up. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
That. Between that and now, we'll get it on.
I probably should cover some of this, but basically the point is that big needle. Mm-hmm. That's the day Lane Kiffin got hired.
Oh my goodness. That's I can see that. You don't need it. Yeah.
So the point being, Lane is a magnet for attention, and on Locked On, yes, anytime I put Lane's name in a title or his face on a thumbnail, it's going to attract Ole Miss people.
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see if over time that subsides, but I don't think it will, Garland, in the same way that LSU fans never quite got over obsessing about Nick Saban. And it's not even, and the Ole Miss situation is even more drastic because Kiffin went straight from Ole Miss to LSU and left them in the middle of a playoff run. Nick left LSU after winning a national championship and went to the NFL. Just when he came back into college, the Bama job was open, so he took it. And it sucks that LSU had to watch him for a decade and a half go on the greatest run in the history of college football. And LSU fans never quite got over it. And I understand and appreciate that. But for Ole Miss fans, whatever that is that LSU fans went through with Saban, multiply it by infinity. Considering everything. Because he's the greatest coach they ever had. Led them to the greatest run of success they've had since Johnny Vaught. And said he was staying. Said he loved it there. They believed it. And then he left for a school they hate in the middle of their greatest season ever. I mean, I get it. Like, I get why Ole Miss fans will forever be in their feelings about this.
I know that Lane is 0-0, and the recruiting class transfer looks great. But looking back on BK being let go, fired after the A&M game, probably the best move that LSU's made in for the football program in the last few years. Was it the right move to get rid of him?
It's hard to say no when you know the answer to the test that they got Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
Right? So, look, I get criticized a lot. People think I'm a Brian Kelly apologist. The thing about, like, two things can be true at the same time. Brian Kelly is a great football coach. He went to a BCS championship game, 2 4-team playoffs, something Lane Kiffin's never done, the winningest active coach in college football. He had 2 10-win seasons at LSU, a Heisman Trophy. Like, he objectively is a Hall of Fame coach who was great at multiple spots over parts of 4 decades. Like, those things, right, are objectively true. He also is coaching at LSU at a transformative time in college football that he did not adjust well to. When Kelly got the LSU job, he said the plan was going to be recruit and develop through the high school ranks, supplement in the portal. Became pretty clear that was not going to be an approach that worked because high school players don't stay. You lose about a quarter of your roster every year. So by the time you get to those guys' third year, half of your signing class from 2 years prior is gone. So it's hard to build and develop the way Kelly wanted to. Brian even told us during a press conference this year, he was asked about his relationship with LSU's then general manager, Austin Thomas. And he said, you know, he's got a good relationship, but he never wanted it to a GM, which is why he never took any NFL jobs. He never wanted that. So the way I would say it, Garland, it's like with Brian Kelly, LSU bought a fleet of horses the day the Model T was invented. You know, it's just, they brought in a coach who was great in a different era, who didn't adjust to the transformative era. Kiffin is the poster child for how to do it in this era, or embracing this era. Now, it's also fair to say about Lane Kiffin, he has won nothing of significance as a head coach. He won games at Ole Miss, but he's won 2 Conference USA titles. He is a brilliant offensive coach who has yet to prove he is a championship caliber head football coach at the highest level. LSU will give him every resource to be that. And yes, I believe Lane Kiffin, moving forward in this era, gives LSU a better chance to win at the highest level than Brian Kelly. And so I guess you could ask yourself the question, would you rather eat $54 million to get rid of Brian Kelly, swallow it, realizing you'll be better long-term, even though there's the short-term pain of that buyout, or keep watching the program maybe erode with a coach that isn't comfortable winning in this era? So yeah, I mean, the day they fired him, it didn't make a lot of sense for in an era where everyone is trying to find more revenue, cut expenses, to go eat $54 million. Knowing how it ended up, getting Lane Kiffin, the #1 portal class, all the attention, the booster dollars, everything. Yeah, it's been great. Now you got to go win games on the field, but yes, to this point, obviously you'd have to say it's work. Because not only did you improve your program, but you also weakened a team in your conference that was competing with you, that historically doesn't. So yeah, I mean, of course, it's easy to look now with the benefit of hindsight and say it was the right choice.
There could be like a laundry list of reasons that Brian Kelly is out, but I could point to Bryce Underwood, his recruitment possibly was the last kind of nail in the coffin for BK, because if Underwood did come to LSU and then Garrett Nussmeier was hurt, then Underwood could have slid in. But that just shows you the new era when they're in that way. Joe Sloan goes up there 100 times in Michigan. Underwood comes down 12 times, and all of a sudden Larry Ellison's wife is a Michigan fan, drops $12 million on him, it's over with. So do you think the Underwood was probably the last thing that kind of put Kiffin or BK out?
I think that Bryce Underwood decision caused a seismic change at LSU. I think the situation you just described is part of it, because if Bryce Underwood's here, you're not going to sign Michael Van Buren out of the portal, and you've got your depth there. But it's also true that Underwood flipped. Remember, this blows people's minds when I remind people of this. The 2024 LSU season, okay? LSU's football roster was around $5 million. You wonder why that team went 8-4 and they looked like they couldn't compete against the best team? That's why. Like, I said this for years, and LSU fans didn't like me saying it. A lot of LSU administrators didn't like me saying it either. LSU struggled to fundraise. They struggled to adapt to the collective era. They did a very poor job of organizing early. When Bryce Underwood flipped to Michigan, it was a wake-up call for so many LSU supporters to go, wait a minute, like, we're LSU and we got the #1 quarterback committed for a year, and then just like that, someone strokes a check and he's gone? So remember what happened. All of a sudden, boosters dumping money into the collective. Brian Kelly does the $1 million match. They raised $3.2 million on that. And LSU goes, before 25, front loads and signs the #1 portal class in the country. So the Underwood flip completely changed LSU's approach to everything. It removed the blindfold, so to speak, the filter from so many people who didn't understand what was happening nationally and how much people really were spending. And so LSU got organized with their collective. They engaged their boosters. They dumped money in. It allowed them to front load. The results just weren't there on the field. In football, men's basketball, which spent $9 million on its roster this year, or baseball, which was able to front load as well, and they're the worst season in any of our lifetimes, going 9-21 in the SEC. So Kiffin, Glasscock, they have a plan for how to spend the money, and the best teams in this era clearly have a plan they can execute.
Last question. What is the record for LSU this upcoming season? Is it too early to talk about? We're in the summertime. Do you have an idea? I tell people personally, I'm like, I don't know what the win-loss record is yet, but it's going to be highly entertaining, and it's going to be a circus every week.
I think listen, I never cop out. Like, I always give an opinion.
Yeah.
We get paid. I get paid to give opinions.
Yeah.
I think I can't give an opinion on this team yet because I have not seen Sam Levitt. If Sam Levitt is healthy, Garland, the entire season rests on Sam Levitt. Just like last year with Nussmeier. You can have talent on both sides of the ball everywhere. If you don't have the engine in the car, it's not going to go. And you saw that with LSU football in 2025. Levitt has a really significant injury. That Lisfranc thing is real. And if he's 100% and the guy he was 2 years ago that led Arizona State to the college football playoff, yeah, this team can be a double-digit win team in the playoff and can go compete to win a national championship. If Sam Levitt is not healthy and they have to play Landon Clark or Husan Longstreet, this is a 7 or 8 win football team. They just will not have enough at the most important position in organized team sports to be great this year. It's all about if you tell me Sam Levitt is healthy, is peak Sam Levitt, I think they're a playoff team. If he is not, I think this will be a really disappointing fall for LSU fans.
There you go. Matt, thank you for your time, sir.
Pleasure.